What's up, guys? Justin with the Podcast Dojo. So, earlier this week I did a video on do I think the American shopping mall could die? And in the same video I asked people if they would watch a video on how I would design a shopping mall, and a few of you said yes. So, I thought it would be a fun video to do myself, so that's really all the confirmation I need to go ahead and do this. So, I'm going to go ahead and do this video here telling you about how I would design a shopping mall today. Now, a couple rules here. So really this is it's just having fun. You know, this is kind of a what if scenario. What if someone asked me to build a shopping mall? So in this video I'm going to cover where would I build this? What kind of stores would I put in there? And what would the overall theme of the mall be? So let's not waste any more time and get right to this. Now, where would I build this mall? Well, I would build it around the Chesterfield Meadows Shopping Center in Chesterfield, Virginia. Now, why would I build around here? Well, the area is relatively safe, which, as you guys have seen in my other Dead Mall videos, that crime can definitely just end a mall's reputation. So, the area is not known for crime, so that'll be good. Plus, I lived in that area for about 24 years, so I feel like I knew what businesses worked and which didn't work. And on top of that, that area has had a lot of development. Arbor Landing, which is one of their local neighborhoods, added on another street, and all of this is in the last 10 years. They added on another neighborhood. There's another apartment complex behind that, and there's even another housing development near that. So lots of development, lots of businesses opening up around there, like a Kroger Supercenter. So I feel like lots of development, we gotta strike while the iron's hot. Now, just because the modern shopping malls haven't really worked so well, I think and there isn't a whole lot of space with all the development, I think I'd keep the mall relatively small, like probably between 200 and 300,000 square feet. So I came up with a list of stores and restaurants I would put in there. So let's go ahead and go over that now. Alrighty, so when coming up with stores here, well, one, I had to think about the area. The area here, the income level from what I can tell is, middle class to upper middle class. So we don't want stores that are too expensive, but at the same time we don't want a lot of discount type stores. And also, as someone who was growing up in the Chesterfield area, the area in particular, Chesterfield Meadows, one of the things I really hated was I felt like to go to certain stores, I felt like I had to drive all the way out to Colonial Heights, Richmond, or Midlothian. So the idea here is to give people a variety of stores so they don't have to drive so far. So let's go ahead and start with the food court. Well, this one was kind of tricky at first because there's already a lot of different fast food type restaurants around that area. So I wanted to think of ones that were different and wouldn't, compete with those other restaurants there. So here's what I had. So I have the A&W food chain, because the only other ones I know of, there's one out in Midlothian, and then there's one on the Colonial Heights Boulevard. Pizza Hut, and then Chili's. I know there's a Chili's in Chester, but that's in South Chester, almost in Colonial Heights, or I should say Hopewell. And I figured one of the things I don't see in a whole lot of malls are sit-down restaurants. So we'll also have a Long John Silver's, because I don't even know of too many that are in the area. And, it gives you some variety with seafood. We gotta have a Chinese food place. I mean, after all, that's pretty much, I feel, almost a staple of mall food courts is to have a Chinese restaurant in there. Then we'd have Qdoba. And I picked Qdoba instead of Chipotle. I think Chipotle is more popular, but I know there's a Chipotle a little ways down the road, kind of where I was talking about before, South Chesterfield, almost in Colonial or Hopewell. So I thought that would give it some variety. And then, now I don't know what type, if there are any restaurant chains like this, but I figured there needed to be like a gluten-free or a vegan type restaurant. That seems to be like the two big fad diets now, and I think that needs to happen. And then we also have an Auntie Annie's Pretzels. That seems to also, I've noticed that in a lot of shopping malls, so that has to happen, as well as Cold Stone Creamery. Not because Cold Stone Creamery is a staple in malls, but ice cream certainly is. Now, for anchor stores, since we're very limited on space, like I said, 200, 300 square feet, so it's not a lot of space. I said Macy's. Now, I said Macy's because I feel like you do need to have a department store here. And I really thought about all the department store chains that are around. JCPenney's, they're okay, but I don't think they're doing as well as they could be. I know they're really suffering because, I know they're closing about 138 of their stores throughout the United States this year. And then Sears, I wouldn't be surprised if Sears goes defunct pretty soon. So that can't happen either. But Macy's, it's a department store. I think they're doing alright, and I think placed in the right area, they would do alright. And plus, I know one thing, they have Sephora in there, which I know is a very popular chain to shop at. Oh, and Dillard's is another one. I wouldn't put that there, and honestly, a lot of why I think of that is there was one in South Park Mall, and that is no longer open. And I don't see too many of them around anyway. So Macy's for that one. And then the other anchor I would put there, well, not really an anchor store, but I'll put a Dave & Buster's in there. And the reason I would put that in there is, I'm trying to think of all the recreational stuff there is to do in the Chesterfield area. You've got bowling alleys, you've got the Ironbridge Sports Park, which has the go-karts, the mini golf, that kind of thing. But Dave & Buster's, I feel like, would be a good way, good indoor recreational type activities. So I think that should be the second anchor. Alright, now for the other stores and shops in the mall, I didn't really put these in any particular order. I just kind of put them down as I thought about them. So anyway, here's what we have. So the first one, I thought maybe like a little 6-screen movie theater. Now, like I said, we can't make the theater but so big because we're not working with too much space. But I feel like a 6-screen theater would be great because, kind of like what I talked about at the beginning of this video, I still love going to movies and everything like that, but I really did hate having to either drive all the way out to Colonial Heights or all the way out to Midlothian to go see a movie. So having a 6-screen theater there would be great because then you don't have to go so far. So then the second store after that would be Foot Locker. I really don't know of too many shoe stores around the Chesterfield area. I know there's some, but in that particular area, the only ones I can even think of are I think the Kroger that they just opened has a shoe department or some shoe selection, and then Walmart. But other than that, I can't think of any specific shoe stores. So the next store I put on there was Charlotte Russe. I actually asked my fiance about some of these because she's a big, she does a lot more clothing shopping than I do. And she said Charlotte Russe is one that a lot of people shop at. A lot of people like to go there. Number 4, I had Victoria's Secret, and I said that because, every mall I've ever been to, even malls that aren't as busy as they once were, that store always seems to survive the decline in business. So I feel even if this mall was a bomb, that store would do well. So then I had PacSun. I tried to think of clothing stores that there's not too many of them in the area. So that was one. Bath and Body Works. That is another store that I've noticed no matter where it is, it's kind of like Victoria's Secret. In fact, I think they're owned by the same company. But that one also seems to do incredibly well no matter where it is. An Apple store. Now, with an Apple store, this is also to kind of keep things modern. Like, because indoor shopping malls, like I said, in the good malls die. Um, they don't really work anymore. Like, so I want to try to make it so that it's modern and kind of with the times, so that way it does work. So then, next one, Jamboree, we have to have a children's store there. So, I wanted to, with the clothing store, since I don't go clothes shopping really, so, that I figured there needs to be a variety of clothing shops that, you can't get at like Walmart or the Kroger, because they also have a pretty big clothing section. Then Spencer's, that is another store that I've noticed I always see in malls, and it always seems to do fairly well. FYE. Now, with films and music and movies, I think a lot of it's gone pretty digital at this point. But, I've always known FYE to be a popular store when it was around. And the only one I even know about is in South Park Mall, so that needs to be there. And actually, kind of going back to what I said about the Apple Store, the only Apple Store I know of is in Short Pump Town Center, which is kind of a drive. So, you want stores that are close by for people. Then we have GNC. That's another one I feel like I see in just about every shopping mall. Verizon and a Sprint store. I feel like those are the two most popular cell phone service providers. So that I feel that should be in there. K Jewelers. Now this one I was really skeptical on even putting a jewelry store inside this mall, because, like I said, I feel like the income level kind of varies in that area. I really don't see them as people that are going to be quick to go out and shop at a jewelry store. But I put that in there anyway, because I thought, engagement rings, class rings, that kind of thing. Old Navy, I put that in there because, want to have a variety in clothing stores. And then my final store I would put in there is Barnes & Noble. And that's because, the only, like I said, being in that area, the only other bookstores I knew of, there was Books A Million in Colonial Heights, or I could drive to Barnes & Noble all the way out Midlothian. So that would be so people don't have to drive all the way out to Midlothian. Okay, now here's kind of how I imagined the layout. Now please excuse, this is a very primitive drawing, but here was my idea. So I thought it should be like a T shape here. So I thought the main entrance would be where the food court is. Not the main entrance, I thought there should definitely be some like floral arrangements, flowers, and maybe a fountain at the entrance here. Then when you go in, I thought there should be a fountain with the food court area. Now, with tables in the food court, I thought each table should have a USB port. When I went to the Newark Airport, like each table in their like food court area had the USB ports, and it was great because I'm thinking, everybody uses like cell phones, tablets, that kind of thing. And that would be perfect for, like I was talking about, kind of like modernize the whole shopping mall. So that way people maybe have a reason to, sit down. And then, they sit down, they may want to go shopping or buy some food. The theater, I thought, should kind of be tucked in the little corner here, outside the food court. The shops, I figured like a lot of the retail, like the clothing store, should be around Macy's, which I had at one end of the T right here. And of course Dave & Buster's here. Maybe you could have some of like the entertainment stores and like the Verizon and Sprint stores around here. Now, how would I decorate this? Well, I already said something about fountains and plants, like on the outside. But this may be a bit of a stretch. But I feel like 80s and 90s nostalgia seems to be the thing now. So I feel like kind of doing pastel colors would be great. And maybe something like the neon lighting in like the food court to kind of give it that 80s feel. Because, there's no reason you can't, if this mall did well and survived, there's no reason it couldn't have renovations in the future to keep that updated. So that was my idea for a shopping mall. What do you guys think? Do you think it could work? If you happen to live in the Chesterfield Meadows area, do you see that working, or do you think it wouldn't work? And you know what? I would really like to read some of your guys' idea. If you guys were to open a shopping mall, how would you do it? I'll definitely read them and respond to any comments you had. Alright, thanks so much. Be sure to leave a rating, comment, subscribe if you like what Ray and I do. And I will catch you guys later.